So Jailton Almeida was officially cut from the UFC. Was that a surprise to you or no?
No, I mean, I think it was a long time coming. I mean,
Yeah.
he's probably the most up and down fighter I've ever seen. Not just by wins and losses, but by boring and entertainment performances. He
Hmm.
keeps the crowds on their toes, dude.
Yeah.
Round one finish, and then a 5 round, I'm just in missionary on top of you. It's like, dude, what?
Yeah.
It's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think he's one of the more bizarre cases of people who are so hot and cold, like they're either going crazy or doing absolutely nothing. But I was a little surprised that they cut him so quickly and didn't allow him to adjust. Because I feel like we've seen fighters have kind
Yeah.
of rough losses and they've given them more time to kind of figure it out what's wrong, like see a new team or find a new weight class. Because obviously his manager said he was going to go down to 205 and then
Yeah.
didn't even get the chance because the UFC cut him. But I will say he's kind of an exception where his bad fights are really bad. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're nowhere. I mean, even you think of something like Movsar, who people always are critical of because he's basically only had decisions, but at least his fights look like he's trying to win, right? The Jailton that we saw against Rizvan
Rizvan.
Kuniev didn't even look like he was trying to win. He literally looked like he didn't care. He just wanted to go in there and do the absolute bare minimum to make whatever the base pay was, which is just like not really acceptable. It's not UFC caliber.
Yeah. I was actually really confused as well because he, on his Instagram, announced that he was going to 205. And I was like, okay, that's a good
Right.
move. And then, like, 12 hours later, they announced that they were cutting him. And that just was kind of weird, the timing of that. But to be quite honest, some people are very much the UFC is about the best, fighting the best, does not matter about entertainment. He was a top 5 heavyweight. He should not have been cut. And I mean, I understand where that comes from, and it should be the best fighting the best, but the best should get finishes, if they're the best. So I like that the UFC is putting that entertainment priority. It could be a Paramount thing too. Like, I mean, I don't. That might actually be kind of a stupid thing to say, but I don't know. I'm happy that they're prioritizing entertainment value and getting these people that are not consistent out. I said it from the beginning. I think the UFC, to be a sport that casuals enjoy, number one, cut more people and sign more people. I don't know. What do you think? What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think I don't mind them. I don't mind them cutting Jailton because he can always go off to another organization and kind of prove himself again, and then come back if he's really proven that he's maybe he's at 205 and change teams or whatever. And I agree with you that there needs to be a balance of entertainment value and also the best fighting the best. I don't think they can prioritize entertainment when it comes to matchmaking. That just seems unfair. I think they have to give the most deserving guy the title shot. If there's two guys who maybe both kind of deserve it, I don't see a problem with them picking the guy who has more fans because, at the end of the day, it's a business, right? They're trying to make the fights that people want to watch. And so they're going to put the fighters that people like, in the big cards. So, yeah, I mean, I was a big fan of the UFC making bonuses guaranteed for any finish because, obviously when you go for a finish, you're putting yourself a little bit on the line. You have to take chances to get a finish because it requires more commitment, generally speaking, than just squeezing out a decision. But if there's no incentive for that, right? Why wouldn't you just play it safe and
Right.
squeeze out a decision? Like there's nothing to lose. And with the whole win money, show money thing, winning is really what they were prioritizing before, right? So if you're going to put yourself on the line and potentially lose because you went for a finish and that would cost you half your pay, why would you ever go for a finish? So get rid of the win money, show money. Both people should make the exact same, relative to their contract, obviously, right? So if somebody's been in the UFC for a very long time, it's understandable that they would have a more lucrative contract, but they should generally be making the same whether or not they win or lose. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
and then give them very, very generous win bonuses or finish bonuses. Sorry, not win bonuses. And it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter how cool it is. Like everybody who gets a finish gets a fat bonus. Right now it's 25,000. I honestly think they could do even more. If it was 100,000, could you imagine how insane that would be? If you got $100,000 for getting a finish, you would see people going for finishes. There's no doubt about that.
It's kind of like CGI. You remember how they said that every bonus or every submission was, like $100,000 or whatever, and those were probably the best grappling matches I've ever seen. So obviously that model works.
Right.
And I guess unless you want to touch more on that point.
Not really. Wasn't there something we said the other day? What was it that we said when we were talking about this topic? I'm totally drawing a blank. But it was 3 decisions and you're out. You're cut from the UFC.
Yes.
That's certainly more controversial. But if you have 3 decisions in a row, whether you win or lose, you get cut from the UFC, which is 3 might be a bit much. Maybe it would be 4. Would be a little bit more. I guess.
I mean, I agree because, based on the average activity of a UFC fighter, 4 fights can span, 2 years, maybe 3 if you're Mofsar,
Yeah.
So that's a lot of time to change your game plan and, know what you're fighting for, right? For like 3 years. If you can't get a finish in 3 years, or at least go for broke in a fight in 3 years, that's on you.
Right. Getting finished wouldn't necessarily do anything bad for you in this scenario, right? Or either you getting a finish or you getting finished. Either of those would break up the 3 in a row, right? So it's only, whether you win or lose, it's going to decision. That's the problem. So yes, you could fix their problem by just being a lot more aggressive, and being willing to potentially get finished.
Yeah, and fighters who don't want to get finished, right? Or they're not willing to go through the fire to get a finish. It's a fear thing. And the UFC, when I say they should cut more fighters, I'm saying that their, definition or their whatever, their sheet they look at when they see a fighter about if they come into the UFC or not should be as strict as possible. It's the best of the best, right? Cut more fighters, sign on more fighters, like Dana White's Contender Series. That should go year round. The people on that series are hungry for finishes. I don't know if you've actually watched Dana White's Contender Series, but there's consistently probably 75% finishes on the fights on every Tuesday. 75%, I would say. I'm just pulling that number, but it's crazy. I'm like, why are we only doing this for 6 weeks or whatever, 2 months? And then we have fighters like Tim Means on the roster and Nico Price. Are you kidding me? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Well, because I would also say too that I think if you had 3, it's like a 3 strikes and you're out kind of rule, where if you go the distance 3 times in a row, win or lose, you get cut. That would have given Almeida one last try to change his style. Because again, with the whole Almeida situation, it's kind of bittersweet to me because he has the tools to be a really exciting fighter. He's really athletic. He's got actually decent stand-up and really, really good wrestling, solid submission skills when he really wants to go for it. It's like that's a recipe for a really exciting fighter that the fans would really like. And we've seen it before. He just has these occasional fights that are just complete duds. But if he went the distance with Volkov and then he went the distance again with Kuniev, this would be, those are 2 warnings. Now, if you go the distance in your next fight, you're done, right? You can get a finish or get finished and you're staying, but if you go the distance, you're done. That would really make him be intentional about going down to 205, about getting a better coach. And on the upside, you make $100,000 if you get a finish. I mean, I would think the finish rate would be through the freaking roof if they had a huge guaranteed bonus for every finish and 3 strikes you're out on going the distance.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the finish rate, we'd see majority of fights be inside the distance.
For sure. And another point that's not really connected to fighter pay, but it's open scoring, right? The UFC should only hire fearless fighters, right? Because the best of the best should be fearless. But what the fighters can't control is if they think they have a fight won and the judges get it wrong and
Yeah.
that. And so I think open scoring would promote more finishes. If fighters have a guarantee, like, we see the little card in between rounds, you're losing. You're going to lose this fight, right? If they have that guarantee, then they know you have to go for a finish. And the coaches are always like, I think you have to go for a finish, but just win this round and I think we'll have a chance. If they have a guarantee, dude, you're going to get cooked if you don't get this finish, I think we'll see more finishes. So I think open scoring, boxing does it, and I've been, a fan of open scoring since I started watching UFC. And I don't know why. I don't know what are the benefits of not having open scoring,
Yeah, I agree, actually. I don't see any reason why they would not do open scoring. It would help the athletes fight more intelligently because they would actually be aware if they're down or not. And yeah, there certainly is an element of kind of, strategy and risk management, like kind of not going all on the gas in the first round to make reads, which I think is a good way to go. And then, but really knowing when you're going into the final rounds, when you're at the point of no return and when you need to go for a finish. So I think it would help them in every way. And it would also increase the finish rate, I would think, for a lot of those fights where it's really close. But if they know that they're losing going into the fifth round, they need to get a finish,
For sure. Totally random. But what do you feel about 3 rounds being the principle of like how long a fight is? Just that's what it's always been. It's always been 3 rounds. Like, what do you think about 2-round fights or 4-round fights or whatever the case is?
2-round fights wouldn't work because you would have a lot of draws. So it would have to be an odd number, I think. Or it would have to be a larger number, like an 8-round fight or a 6-round fight if it's even, because then it's less likely that it's going to be a draw. But if it's a 2-round fight, yeah, especially if there's open scoring, if one of them wins the first round, you bet your ass the other guy is going to be going crazy in the second round. And, so I think that would kind of be, I don't know.
Yeah, because where I got that inspiration from my head was Dan Hooker actually, I don't know if you see on Instagram, but he collabs with somebody. He has this organization called, I think, 1 Minute Scraps. And it's
I've seen
literally
1 Minute Scraps. Of course, I've seen it.
A $25K tournament, and it's, you have to fight, get 6 wins or whatever to win the money. And it's 1 minute fights. And it's like, I think it's finish only or something. Or if neither person gets a finish, it's like double elimination. Something like that. It's insane. But these big 6'5" Samoan guys swing, bro.
They go crazy.
Swing. Dude, I think I've seen souls leave the earth in these reels. But I think I wouldn't mind the UFC playing with, like, maybe for, okay, it's kind of sexist, but maybe for women's fights, making them 2 rounds. Because let's be honest, there's no finishes anyways. So why are we watching this for 15 minutes? Okay, let's be a little realistic here.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind them changing women's fights to being 2 rounds or something like that. Yeah, that's reasonable. Not sure how that would work for men's fights. I think 2 might be not ideal. Honestly, imagine if they did 1-round fights as kind of
Justin Gaethje.
Yeah, or maybe at like heavyweight. Like heavyweights only have to fight 1 round.
I would love that, dude. I love that idea.
I don't think that would be. I think a lot of people would actually be on board with that. Because, the only problem with a 1-round fight though is that. Well, actually, in another sense, I was going to say that a lot of them would go the distance because if you don't have to finish your opponent, as long as you win the 1 round and your opponent hasn't had a chance to figure out your style and your timing and your speed, like that would be just a way to easily squeak out a win.
1 round, finish only. Imagine that.
What do you mean finish only? How can they enforce that?
There's no win bonus. No win bonus. You get paid to make weight, but like not a lot. Like you get paid to make weight, like just enough, and then it's finish only. If you get a finish, you get $100,000. If you no finish, doesn't even matter.
See, that would be a problem, I think, because then you're gonna have people. It's like not really sustainable. You're gonna have people who will spend a whole camp training for this fight, and then they're going to go in there, and if they don't win, like they're not even able to like afford to live. Like that's not going to work.
Maybe the UFC needs to employ their own 1 minute. You know, like they have Tough, they have Dana White's Contender Series. Maybe they need and the UFC BJJ. Maybe they need their own like 1 minute scraps mini organization within.
That's kind of what Power Slap is in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but nobody cares about Power Slap, honestly.
Yeah,
You ever seen those like Samoan guys running at each other?
Running. Yeah, that's crazy. It's so stupid. I think a 1 round fight is kind of cool as a concept. I just think the biggest problem with it is that number one, you don't have an opportunity to change your game plan mid fight, like in the corner, and kind of like get your bearings. That's kind of a big part of sort of like the meta game of fighting. That wouldn't exist in a 1 round fight. But in another way, that's actually would kind of make it almost more interesting, because then you can't rely on your coaches or, you know, sitting down and like not having a guy throwing punches in your face to come up with a way to change your strategy to maybe try and win the fight. Like it will reward people who are able to think on their feet and make reads in the fight, which is way more challenging than sitting on a stool and having your coach watch it and tell you what's going wrong. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that would be kind of cool. And, you know, obviously the other benefit, like we said, was that heavyweights, oftentimes their fights really deteriorate the longer they go, the quality of them, you know? And so, like, for example, if Tai Tuivasa and Taliesin Teixeira knew that their fight was only going to be 1 round, I'm sure they would have emptied the tank in the first round, and it would have been way crazier, you know? And some of them kind of take that approach anyways, like, the Russian guy, Sergey Pavlovich, like he kind of, or at least earlier on in his career, he used to kind of go crazy. Yeah. Not anymore, but earlier on, he would just go nuts in the first round. But
for sure. So we were talking about, you know, paying the fighters by finish, maybe even more than $100,000 or whatever, 25. I think it's 25 grand for a finish now, you know, and we were talking about maybe cutting win bonus completely, but making it like $100,000 per finish, you know?
Right.
And, you know, Dana always talks about fighter pay, blah, blah. And that I think the UFC, I think I've heard it mentioned that the UFC spends most of their money on marketing, right? But
I would be surprised.
Yeah. And then you see Dana White, you know, just pull his phone out, you know, he's on the freaking in his bathroom. And he's just like, what's up, guys? You know, here's the fights this weekend, blah, so blah. Dumb. And it's like, dude, where is that marketing budget going? They used to make beautiful promos, you know, in the
classic Aldo and McGregor with the Kanye West song. I'm totally blanking now what it is, but they're a guy. Yeah,
whatever.
No Church in the Wild. Yeah. But they're like on the Vegas Strip, and there's like a crowd around them. They're like walking for each other. That stuff is super cool. Did you see that one? It was like an AI generated video, but it was still pretty cool as a concept. The one of Ilia and Makhachev in the mountains,
for sure.
I mean, that's just cool. And obviously portions of that McGregor Aldo promo were not, you know, shot with real people. Like a lot of it was probably CGI.
Right.
But they could do stuff like that and it would be awesome. I actually think the promos that they were doing for the BMF fight between Oliveira and Holloway
were good.
On the Paramount, I think honestly it was during UFC 324.
Yeah.
It was also during 325, I'm sure, but those ads they were showing for that fight were actually quite good. They were more almost edit-like in a way. It wasn't just like Joe Rogan like shouting stuff with clips. It was actually like they had cool effects and stuff. Dude. And I like how they had the black background with kind of like the red letters. It's all like glitching out and stuff. It's just, I don't know. It's just kind of cool. It's just different. Yeah. You know?
No, for real. You know, I was wondering, why doesn't the UFC hire like TikTok editors as interns? Okay, it might be kind of cringe, but seriously, there are so many gifted editors that just edit TikTok videos and they have a channel of like 100K followers or whatever that are kind of still like unknown. And the UFC has never jumped in that arena, and they get so many views, millions, you know. And the UFC never does stuff like that. I think that they're missing out on a lot of free marketing, you know. But
yeah. I mean, I think part of it is probably the people who are in charge of marketing for the UFC are a little out of touch, maybe with I would say the kind of like the 20-year-olds generation, like people who are late teens to
Yeah.
late teens to 30, like that demographic, it seems like they don't really know how to market to them.
Right.
Like obviously the stuff with Nina Drama is like
gonna say,
kind of
yeah.
marketing toward the more like middle-aged
Divorced
dudes who are
dads.
just like horny and stuff. Yeah. It's like, okay, I get that's probably like a big part of the demographic, but it's kind of a slap in the face to everybody else who just likes to get excited about the matchups and what makes them, the storylines behind them and that kind of thing.
Right. People like
and
us.
yeah. But like like the editors on TikTok and stuff, those kinds of edits, they actually capture the kind of the spirit of the fight. Like what is this conflict? You know what I mean? Cause like obviously every fight's a little different, some of them are revenge stories. Like the storyline going into, Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland was different than, Pereira and Adesanya. Like Pereira and Adesanya was like kind of a revenge story. I think DDP versus Strickland was more like this psychological warfare, like in the promotion of it. But they just don't tap into that stuff enough, I feel like. I mean, obviously the press conferences and stuff are pretty good, but at this point, they ask them the same questions over and over and over again. We know exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be, oh, we'll find out on Saturday night. What are you going to do when you get the belt? Are you going to enjoy it? It's like the same stuff all over again.
It's that one porter dude that Kobe was like, "Come on, John, 10 push-ups right now."
Yeah, John Morgan.
Only got one lung. It's like, dude,
yeah,
I love Colby, dude.
Yeah, but man, because not everybody on the roster promotes themselves as well as someone like McGregor. Like that's just going to be hard. Like those people are rare. They're good fighters and they're good entertainers and showmen. There's a reason why McGregor went on to be in movies and stuff, right? Like that doesn't surprise me at all because he just has a lot of charisma naturally. But the UFC can't just wait around until those people show up to carry all the weight of the promotion. Because some people like Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev, they're not going to have the same kind of charisma that someone like McGregor has, but they still have a lot of promotional value that they could bring. Like that one edit of, like I was talking about with Makhachev and Topuria walking across the snow in the mountains. Like that kind of stuff is cool because what's the storyline behind that fight? You have these two guys that seem invincible. There's like a kind of a cultural difference between them. It kind of feels like nation against nation. Like it's just cool. Like they got to tap into that when they're promoting these fights and they just don't. It's like, we're just going to get Nina Drama with some low cut shirt saying, "Oh, do you think fart is funny? Like, can you say the word fart?" And it's like, okay, like this is just dumb. Like, who are we marketing to? We're not middle schoolers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, literally. It's funny. Also, it's when you make it nation against nation, people tune in. Okay? Think about it. When Charles fought Islam, did it feel like it was Brazil versus Russia?
100%.
I mean, when I compare it to Conor and Khabib, those were like the people were wearing leprechaun suits to the fights and people are getting into fights in the stands, right? But so many other title fights, it's just like, oh, it's gonna be a good fight, but people aren't invested. Like it's nation versus nation, right? And I don't know. Only very few fighters can really grasp that aspect, and get people that invested into the fight, But yeah.
I actually think the national pride thing has huge promotional potential because people, it's kind of like how, college sports are so popular. Like, why are they so popular? Even at schools where they're not that big. Well, it's because you have people who went to those schools who watch it simply because they went to that school. It's almost like a school spirit thing. Like out of pride for my school, I'm going to support them and watch them because it feels like, it's like a reason to root for one of the teams, and that makes the stakes higher as a viewer, which increases the entertainment value of it, right? Same thing with fighting, right? Except instead of with schools, it's with countries because it's kind of a unique sport in that you have people from literally all over the world. But when you have people who really who really promote, I would say, through their national identity, it always makes for more. I mean, think about all the most popular fights. A lot of them, there's a little bit of that kind of national pride kind of going into it. Like, I would even say to a certain extent, Alex Pereira kind of represents this kind of like tribal Brazilian kind of national pride.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, obviously it's kind of different. Like, this, you know, I don't know exactly know who he's representing currently, but
Amazon,
like,
or the Amazon or whatever. Like,
yeah, kind of
thing.
Right. And then another great example was Adesanya versus Dricus du Plessis.
Dude. I was going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know it was obviously some of it was kind of silly, but there certainly was an aspect of it that it's like, what does it mean to be African? You know, like that was a big thing between the two of them. And it actually kind of made the tension leading up to that fight more like the stakes were just higher. And it felt like the stakes of the fight were higher than, I don't know, let's say Adesanya versus Jared Cannonier. Like, what was the, how did they even promote that fight? Yeah, I don't even know. Like, for what reason would you root for either of those guys besides just, I think they're cool and I like their style? Like, I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure. Even, I mean, not a great example, but Merab versus Umar. There's they were arguing about, you know, like Umar, you know, or just Merab being from Georgia, or I don't know, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. No. I actually get what you're saying.
Vaguely, there was something in there.
So, yes, I know what you're trying to get at. Part of it was because there's also, it's not just national pride that makes people invested in it, but different styles. I mean, different countries kind of have different fighting styles a little bit, right? I mean, obviously, you know, the Dagestan is kind of known for a certain fighting style. Brazilians have a fighting style. They're, generally speaking, they're all pretty fearless and they just kind of go in there, and obviously Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a big thing. And then
Kind of
Americans,
Muay
I would say, like wrestling. Yeah. Wrestling is a big thing in America. But with Merab and Umar, it was Georgian wrestling versus Dagestani wrestling, even though Umar is like not the best example of the Dagestanis when it comes to wrestling because he's more of a striker. But still, a little bit of that storyline was there. Like, after that fight, everybody was, it sort of felt like somebody finally broke the Dagestani code kind of a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden Georgians as wrestlers were kind of, I would say, put on the map a little bit as far as MMA goes. I know obviously a lot of great wrestlers come out of Georgia, you know, in the wrestling world, but
yeah,
as far as MMA goes, did anybody take Georgia super seriously as kind of like a premier wrestling nation to be like a force to be reckoned with in MMA? I don't know. I'm sure Merab's win over Umar certainly made that kind of more on the forefront, but
yeah. And dude, even religion too, like
100%, dude.
On every edit, you know, whether it's an edit of Khabib or an edit of whatever, and you go to the comments, and you know, if it's Khabib or whatever, one of the top comments will be, you know, whatever, something about Allah kind of thing.
Right.
And then if it's, you know, some, you know, Christian fighter or whatever, guaranteed it's going to be like a cross emoji. But, you know, people, at the end of the day, it's an identity thing. You know, there's kind of, I don't know if this is the right term, but like identity politics kind of thing, where you identify with somebody and you back them up, whatever they do. You know what I mean? When you
well, yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, you're like, I can relate to this person more because they share things in common with me. Like, we're both Christians, or we're both Americans, or we're both black, we're both white, we're both from Brazil. You know what I mean? Like, so, and I know obviously that's not the only reason why people root for certain fighters, but I think even without realizing it, there's probably something there, right? Where it's like, oh, it kind of feels good for somebody kind of from my tribe wins in a sense. You know what I mean? I mean,
for sure.
Look at the Dagestani fans. Do I need to say more? I like read the comment sections of any fight or any kind of post involving Dagestani fighters. They are obviously so motivated to be fans of the Dagestani fighters based on race, religion, and of course with the Dagestani, like I would say, kind of nationality comes the Dagestani fighting style, and like so they associate that with religion. Yeah, exactly. So it's there. I would say all these moving parts certainly kind of contribute to why people get invested in certain fights more than others. I would say that was a huge reason why. I mean, that's why Khabib versus McGregor was kind of the perfect fight for promotion, because McGregor is a walking promotional genius. Like, everywhere he goes, it's clippable. Like, everything that he says and does, they can milk that in every embedded episode, in every video.
Yeah.
Like, they can plaster everywhere and people are going to watch it because McGregor is just good at that. And then you have Khabib, who was kind of like the complete opposite side of the coin, where he didn't care at all about promoting the fight. It was all about being authentic for Khabib. It was all about, I'm fighting because it's what I'm meant to do, and it's how I bring honor to my nation and
legacy.
And, it's almost like in a way, because a lot of the things they say, it was almost like affirming that Allah has my back and all this, you know what I mean? That kind of thing, right? And so no wonder, I'm sure every Muslim in the world was probably watching that fight at the edge of their seat, hoping Khabib would win. And Conor kind of leaned into it in the promotion. Like, he talked about religion and stuff. And it's controversial, obviously, but I mean, you can't even tell me that didn't improve the promotional value of the fight.
For sure.
Yeah, it was controversial, but did it cause more pay-per-views to be sold? I'm sure it did. You know?
And if we go beyond pay-per-views, as far as just views, even today, I mean, I go back to TikTok, but I still see edits of that fight and Conor getting, millions of views today.
100%.
This fight was like 6 years ago. 8 years ago, whatever, something in there.
100%.
And it's still pumping views,
Right.
And Conor even started chopping it up with Ali too. With like the 9/11 stuff.
Yeah.
Dude, he was going
It's controversial,
crazy.
but dude, that stuff, that's what gets people watching it, because all of a sudden it feels like the temperature is rising, like the stakes are getting higher and higher. And at the end of the day, there's nothing that kind of, I will say, releases all the tension when it comes to kind of beef between two people than fighting, right? When you have two people who have been absolutely going to war with each other and saying the nastiest things to each other, being able to hit each other is literally the last thing that happens that ends up kind of releasing all that tension. Because I mean, violence is just it's like the ultimate form of conflict, right? So in a way, I know this is kind of like one of my more hot takes, but I think that, it's like the saying, all is fair in love and war, right? You guys are getting into a fight, okay? All the promotional stuff, especially with that in mind, that this is a sport, so you're working for a company who's trying to sell the fight. There's no reason to, I don't think anything is truly off limits when it comes to promotion. Again, I know that's a hot take, but they're literally about to get into a cage and fight each other, like really try to hurt each other. And ultimately, I think everybody in the organization should know that there's kind of some immunity when it comes to promoting the fight, because there's that knowledge that, yeah, this is just promotion. Like, I'm not ordinarily wouldn't be sitting in these chairs on this stage, like talking trash to each other. Like, you guys are coworkers at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And saying things to each other before you literally get into a fist fight is one of the ways that it raises the stakes. It just is, And I'm not going to say that I agree with everything everyone says is like a kind thing to say. That's not the point. The point is to increase the conflict and the tension, and to make the fight itself it's like the fight itself releases more tension all of a sudden when you raise the temperature going into it, and it makes the stakes feel higher, and it increases the entertainment value for people.
For sure. Dude, nothing hurts more than a fight that has been built up like crazy and turned out to be an absolute snooze fest. Nothing
that
hurts
is true
more.
as well.
As a fan, nothing hurts more.
Well, that's why you have to, that's why all of these pieces have to come together to have the perfect promotional just strategy, right? Conor McGregor. I mean, we can always go back to Conor McGregor because he's just the best promotional. He was the best promoter of any athlete ever in the UFC. What made him so good? Well, number one, he was pretty slick on the mic. Like when he said stuff, he didn't kind of fumble over his words. Like he was just a natural at kind of talking trash. But he also backed it up where when he actually got into the cage, he was a consistent finisher, right? I can't think of many McGregor fights that weren't really, really fun to watch because whether he lost or won, almost all of his fights ended in a submission or a KO, right? And so when you have those two things together, you're like, wow, they really jacked up the temperature going into this fight. And now when they actually fight, you know that they're really going to go head to head. And that's what the McGregor Khabib fight turned out to be. There was maximum tension going into it because they tapped into race, they tapped into religion, they tapped into fighting style. Like they tapped into all of it. And then when the actual fight happened, you have two people who are finishers. And it's the perfect storm. Like it creates the perfect, it's like promotional gold. Yeah. I mean, dude, even McGregor versus Jose Aldo, they tapped into the nation versus nation thing, Brazil versus Ireland. That was a big part of the promotion. And it's no wonder. It's like one of the biggest fights in history, you know? So UFC, take notes.
You're real. Who would have thought that, good promo / trash talk plus finishing ability, instantly you rise to the top of the organization.
Wow, shocker. Who could have guessed?
Yeah, like look at Marab. He antics and I would say good promo, but then you go to his fight and it's like, dude, did you even go for a finish? And I honestly, the Sugar submission, I'll take it.
Yeah,
what I mean?
It was a good finish, but Sugar was also like a really good matchup for him. He's not a consistent finisher. Like Marab can get a finish if he has the perfect matchup that really is like a bad style, or of which Marab's style
everybody
is bad
should.
for them.
Everybody should. If you get a perfect matchup and you don't get a finish, that's on you, brother. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, but I think Marab is a good example of somebody who's like, same with Colby, right? Good promo, good trash talk, wearing the old suit with like from the 1700s, like a Revolutionary War kind of thing. All that stuff is good, but then he's, kind of a snoozer in the fight,
Right.
And so that's why, he sells pay-per-views, but he's not that top percent, not in the McGregor, I guess John Jones is kind of an exception where like he sells, but that's because he's the GOAT, you know what I mean? So, if you're the GOAT, you can do what you want kind of thing.
I was on the tip of my tongue. Another example. Oh yes, Sean Strickland, right? Sean Strickland is actually a great. I would say Sean Strickland is kind of more of like a bull in a china shop when it comes to promotion. He's a little less cool and suave. Like he doesn't have the most elegant trash talk, and it's not as kind of charming as someone like McGregor or like Chael Sonnen or something. But there's no denying that his press conferences are always like there's a lot of energy there. And also the fact that Strickland's one of those guys that kind of gets into tussles and stuff outside of the octagon too. There's a little bit of that kind of going for him.
We were, I'll tell you off really bad, but we were at 296 when he had the brawl with DDP.
Yeah.
I remember like the fights were good or whatever, but I remember when that thing happened, it was like way across. And everybody around us, everybody in the stadium was
going crazy.
Oh, holy crap! There was pointing and going crazy, and it's dude.
Put that in the freaking clip for the promo for their upcoming pay-per-view. It's like it's so easy. Like you got to use that stuff. Like I know it's controversial, right? It's just like saying bad things about someone's like race, religion, or whatever. It's like yes, it is controversial, and honestly, it's not good. But when it comes to promoting a literal fist fight, it seems like it might be like within the cards to use that to promote it. I would say using what's like legitimately a crime, which is to like hurt somebody, like battery in public, that's in a non-sanctioned event, right? Like obviously DDP's not going to press charges against Sean Strickland because he knows
Colby and
like,
Jorge.
Yeah, but is it bad to use like literal footage of someone committing a crime like Sean Strickland throwing hands at DDP in the crowd. Is it bad to use that to promote a fight? I don't think so. Even if it's bad to do that, like even if it's bad to like battery is not a good thing, using it to promote the fight, I don't got a problem with that. I don't got a problem with that because guess what? They're going to go in there and actually fight,
right,
to settle it. Like that's the whole point.
Exactly.
You know,
I'm kind of surprised that there's not more fights between fighters at events. You know, when they're surrounding each other.
Yeah,
and you know, I remember Hamzat versus Nate Diaz. That fight was supposed to good. I'm so happy that fight didn't happen, dude. Nate would have been killed. But they had the whole backstage thing. Nothing was really on camera, and it's like Dana just shut down the press conference. Like, yeah, you know, it's just good that we don't do this right now for everybody's safety. And everybody's like, what? And I'm like, dude, if you literally want to throw hands at somebody, at least do it in front of a camera. Like your stock will go crazy in a fight organization. Don't do it behind the curtains and just because whatever.
Like before the weigh-in show, it's like
take advantage of it. In fact, I'm surprised fighters don't do that on purpose. Be like, yeah, I'm like, okay, this is, you know, you're a terrible person if you do this. But I'm just saying, if we're, you know, being in the perspective of a guy who is money hungry, go to an event and find somebody that's in your weight division, start an argument, and push him. Like, dude, I guarantee you, 50K followers the next day. Guarantee you.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, it's like when Paddy threw the water bottle at Ilia Topuria. All of a sudden, like literally a year or two later, or more. I mean, that was what, in 2022? Something like that? I think that was ahead of
like the London card with Jai Herbert, I think it was that fight.
No. I think it was Ankalaev versus Blachowicz. It was when Topuria fought Bryce Mitchell and Paddy fought Jared Gordon. Yeah. They were on the same card. So they were all in the same area. Paddy chucks the water bottle at him. Dude, that was 4 years ago. And when Ilia Topuria beat Charles and they brought Paddy in, dude, they put that clip on YouTube. It has like 10 million views. And I legitimately think a lot of the interest in that matchup, why the stakes feel so high, is because you got people who both have charisma, they've got national pride, and they've raised the stakes. Paddy Pimblett chucked a water bottle at him. Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor. Conor chucks a water bottle at him. Conor McGregor and Khabib. Conor chucks a chair at the bus. Again, not going to condone any of that because that's technically those are like real crimes. But, and Dana would say the same thing. But you just know Dana's in the back. Like when he sees a clip, you know, he's in his office. His guy comes up, taps on the shoulder. Hey, Dana, Conor McGregor just chucked a chair at Khabib's bus. You know, Dana gets on X and goes, oh, I don't condone any of this. This is horrible. We're going to talk to Conor and deal with this. But the moment he hits tweet, he's going.
Yeah, dude, I guarantee you, if it's like, okay, an altercation happened and nobody was injured, it's like free money for Dana. He's like, dude, they just did my job. You know what I mean?
Right.
And funny enough, I just looked it up. Paddy Pimblett threw a water bottle of hand sanitizer at Ilia because Topuria confronted him aggressively following a heated social media feud stemmed from Pimblett insulting Georgia, insulting his nation.
There you go.
Tempers rise.
Same story, new day. 10 million view promotional clip on YouTube. It's like, it's so simple. And, you know, actually, I will say this too. Sometimes that doesn't have to be the storyline. It doesn't have to be, oh, we hate each other because we're from different countries and we have different religions. Like, for some matchups, that works. But if it was that way for everybody, it does have to feel authentic too, right? Like, you know that McGregor has a lot of national pride. He takes a lot of pride in the fact that he's Irish. Nothing wrong with that. You also know Khabib takes a lot of pride in the fact that he's from Dagestan and that he's Muslim. Nothing wrong with that. All that's great. And when the two of them come together, it makes sense that their conflict would be over things like religion and nationality and things like that. But then you have other fights, like, for example, Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. Ilia Topuria is actually a pretty respectful dude. Like, obviously, he talks trash in promos and stuff, but I remember I saw this clip. I can't remember which one. I want to say it was in the promo for his fight with Oliveira, or in the embedded. Sorry, not the promo. But there's a moment where he's kind of starting to cut weight, and Volkanovski No,
Oh,
I was
no.
gonna get to that. But when Volkanovski comes into the gym, he's like Topuria's like literally like he stops everything. He like walks up to him. He literally like bows in front of him, and it's like okay, maybe it's a bit much, but the dude clearly respects like even his opponents who he talked trash to and said, "Oh, I'm gonna put you to sleep." Like he respects them a lot. Even Oliveira, right? Like you were saying, the sauna. When they were in the sauna, they kind of had like a heart to heart moment where they were talking about their kids. But in a way, that also increases the stakes of the fight because all of a sudden you're like, oh damn, I care about both these guys. Like these are both like it kind of like brings them down to earth all of a sudden. It's like these are two dads that are fighting each other. Like they've got kids, they've got families to support, and now they're getting locked into a cage to hurt each other. It's like, man, it just like feels intense more. You know what I mean? So like it can go both ways. You can have the Colby Covington, Khabib, McGregor. You can have that approach, but you can also have the approach of like two guys that are just warriors that respect each other, but they're going in there to provide for their family. It was like, damn, like all of a sudden that fight just felt like it had so much more stakes were just higher because it's like you care about both those guys. You know what I mean? Kind of brought them down to earth a little bit.
Yeah, dude, I would almost compare Ilia to Thanos. Because Thanos, obviously, he respects the skills of every opponent he faces. But at the end of the day, he takes their souls. You know, and that's hella glazing, but he reminds me of Thanos, right?
It's like
it's all respect.
Like it's not personal. I got a job to do.
100%. He believes.
It's like when he said to.
No,
go ahead.
You're fine. You're fine.
I was just gonna say. I just had this thought. It's kind of like in the ceremonial weigh-ins when Charles or when Ilia said to Charles, "I'm sorry, it has to be you."
Right.
Like, damn. That line is just ice cold because you know he means it too.
That was
like
genuine.
you know Ilia is genuinely feels sorry for him. That he's like, I'm sorry about what I'm gonna do to you. Damn. Like when you think about a fight like we saw on the fight night card at the Apex last week, like so many of those fights, it's like how the hell is this even the same sport as what Ilia and Charles? That fight felt like it was so much more real. Like you're watching like a real fight between people, not just people trying to win a game. It felt like a real fight. Like it had the same spirit that real fights do, where it's like a survival thing. You know what I mean? But it's also, I have a job to do, and I'm going to go in there and get it done no matter what. Like we have to set aside, like at the end of the day, that's kind of what this is about. You have to set aside the fact that I know you're a dad. I know you have to support your family, but I do too. Right. We're getting locked into a cage. Whoever comes out on top, whoever's awake at the end, like they're the ones who, you know, who are like triumphant. It's like,
right.
Gosh, it just, I mean, and then Charles says to Ilia, he's like, I'm prepared for war or something along those lines. After that, he's like, I came prepared.
Yeah,
dude, like, you know, damn, it feels like. It feels like something out of a freaking movie when that happens. But it's not scripted. Like these are real people fighting each other. Like that's what makes the UFC such a unique sport, like unlike anything else. And the UFC, if they want to promote these events, they got to tap into that. Like that's what they got to do if they want to sell these fights.
Exactly.
Let the fighters be authentic, but tap into what it is that makes them special and makes their fights special. Reward finishes, because that always makes the payoff a lot greater whenever they actually promote it, because you don't want a Strickland situation or a Colby Covington situation where the talk is big, but the fight happens and it's almost like a boy who cried wolf effect, where next time there are people who are really bold and stuff with their trash talk, you're like, okay, well, you might just go in there and just kind of like jab and teep them, or go in there and just like grab his legs, push him up against the fence, and just like not do anything. It's like, okay, it kind of like makes the promotion of it for future fights, it kind of decreases the value of it.
For sure.
But when you have two finishers, promote that with bonuses, 3 strikes and you're out. You're going to get more Ilia Topurias. You're going to get more Charles Oliveira's. And then when the fight is happening, if they're authentic and they're just like, I'm like, you're a dad, I'm a dad, but we got to go in there and do this thing. Like I'm going to go in there. I'm going to hurt you. I'm sorry. It has to be you. Use that. And if they're more like, I'm from Dagestan, you insulted my country, you insulted my nation, I'm representing not just me, I'm representing millions of people at home who are watching this. Dude, That's how you get those. That's how you get butts and seats, man. That's how you get people to watch that crap when they feel like they've got skin in the game or something. They got to lean into that if they want to. If they want the UFC to grow into like a ultra mega sport, like it did when McGregor was around, they got to lean into that stuff.
Yeah, dude. And also, I know I said earlier about cutting more fighters, but so many people, like, why are you in the UFC? It's like, I just like to compete. It's like, dude. And then you look at Ilia and Charles, and there's like, I'm here by a God-given purpose to, destroy my opponent and bring the belts home to my family. It's like those two people. Yeah, cut the people that are just here to compete and whatever, and sign on these Dana White Contender Series people that are fighting to move their family out of an apartment. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many hungry fighters that are young in their career that are fighting to eat the next week. And you can't. There's I don't know. My point is,
give those people a
stated,
chance. Give those people a chance and reward them for it. Like, if you had a dude who I'm like, he wants to retire his parents, or he wants to support them, or he's got people living with him and he needs to provide for them. And you say, I'm going to give you $200,000 if you go in there and get a finish, dude. I can tell you right now, that fight's going to be a barn burner if you set those parameters for it. If you create that expectation for it. Another thought I had that is kind of, I would say, kind of an adjacent thing for promotion, but not really like a main strategy for promotion, but it could have some positive effect, is offering either offering resources or having resources within the UFC for social media management for the fighters, because that is certainly a part of it, I think, when it comes to gaining fans. I mean, I can think of in the last year, I would say it's very, very obvious that Arman Sarukian and Merab have hired social media managers to make content for their social media, because they kind of go like they're borderline content creators at this point. You know what I mean? Dude, I was pointing this out too, and I don't know if he has a social media manager or if he's just savvy. Probably the latter, because he's not a huge fighter yet in the sport, but he's young, right? He's from the generation that kind of knows how social media works. Quill and Sal Killed. I've been talking about this guy a lot lately. Dude's got 200,000 followers and gets ridiculous engagement on his posts because they're just cool. Like, he just takes cool pictures and it works. You know what I mean? He had a post I saw. Carlos Prates. Like, that's how you're going to get people with massive amounts of followings. Dude, 100%. And again, I don't think that's the real bread and butter of the promotion. I think what we were talking about before with the kind of leaning into what makes the actual conflict authentic, whether that's actual conflict between them, like they got into a fight in the stands, right? Or they got into a fight backstage, or someone chucked a water bottle at them, or whatever it is, or it has to do with, nationality or religion. Like, lean into those things. If that's what makes them really have beef with each other, that's what's really going to sell the fights. And then promote that to the freaking max. Hire some TikTok editors. They know what they're doing. Please get rid of Nina. Tell Dana to turn off his front-facing camera. Get rid of that crap. Lean into the real conflict that makes these fights have tension. Pay the crap out of them for getting crazy finishes so that the payoff of the promotion is there. And then have some dang good editors put together videos in ways that people consume them, like on, in shorts, or, in the actual broadcasts of the MMA fight or the UFC fights. And then there you go. Dude, watch the McGregor Khabibs roll in. Like, that's all it takes.
Kind of a random name, but just the one that came to mind when I was talking about Dana White's Contender Series people was Jose Delgado. I don't know if you watch him fight a lot, but he came into the UFC through Contender Series August of 2024. He fought 3 times in 2025, 2 KOs, He was the guy that knocked out Hyder Emil with that step and knee in 1 minute. And he's like 27. And there's I guarantee you, there are so many Jose Delgados in the world that have, 10 wins, 8 finishes, 9 finishes, and will fight 3 times a year that we're just not signing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, take notes,
Dude, if the UFC starts to do these kinds of things, I really think they would be. I think the value of their pay-per-views. Well, they don't have pay-per-views anymore, but the value of their events would go through the roof. They would get more fans. They would get more viewers. Like, this is what it takes. I think the promotion is really lacking. There's plenty of talent, but they need to incentivize finishes and just promote the fights for what they are. Like, you got to capture the spirit of whatever fight it is.